Hi guys, how are you? Teacher Adam here, and I'm here with a lesson that you guys, I would say you're gonna love. Maybe you're not gonna love it because it might be a bit difficult, but certainly it's going to be very useful, and it's something the students have a lot of questions about. It is, of course, as you can see, some, no, and any when they work as prefixes. For example, somebody, anybody, nobody, someone, anyone, no one, somewhere, anywhere, nowhere, etc., etc. Okay, the first thing that I would say to you is, for the love of God, please do not try to think about this or to understand it in terms of your native language. Don't try to find equivalents or approximate terms in your native language. That's not the way to do it. If you do that, then it doesn't matter what I say to you in the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long this lesson takes, because you're just not going to understand it the right way. Okay, you need to forget about what you know in your native language and just accept it as English. It exists, it's different. Okay, you need to have an open mind in terms of doing just that, in terms of accepting English as different, as a unique case. Okay, so let's get it started. We have here first some, okay, and some can refer to a person, a place, or a thing, okay, and it's used to say that the person, place, or thing exists, or that the person exists. Okay, then we move on to no. Okay, and when we use no, we mean that no person, no place, or no thing exists. Okay, so it doesn't exist, in other words. And any, the tricky one, is about the possibility. Okay, so the possibility that it exists, or the possibility that they exist. It's a person. So the possibility of a person, place, or thing. Jesus, very theoretical, very confusing. Don't worry, we'll take a look at some examples and we'll take it from there. So with some, we need to use it in affirmative sentences. Okay, so the basic principle is that with some, we use it in affirmative sentences to refer to a person, place, or thing that exists. Okay, so we use it in affirmative sentences to say that a noun, person, place, or thing exists. Okay, and with somebody or someone, we're talking about a person. There's no difference between body and one. Somebody and someone are exactly the same. We use them both in affirmative sentences to say that a person exists. All right? So for example, my mother is somebody I love very much. My mother is somebody I love very much. Affirmative sentence, and of course, fortunately for me, my mother exists. Okay? Therefore, I exist. If my mother didn't exist, I wouldn't be here. Everybody needs someone to love. Okay, so hopefully it's hopefully they exist. So everybody needs someone to love. So we're using someone in an affirmative sentence to say that a person exists. All right. And look here. First example, somebody. Second example, someone. They're exactly the same. They're interchangeable. I can use somebody in A and someone in B, or vice versa. Someone in A, somebody in B. Absolutely no difference. Okay. Next, no. Okay. And again, to say that it doesn't exist. And we're going to look at nobody and no one for a person, or for people. Nobody and no one are the same, but just be careful to put a little hyphen between no and one. Okay. So nobody and no one we use in affirmative sentences to say that no person exists, no place exists, or no thing, nothing exists. Okay, so we have some examples, some correct examples. That's strange, I heard a noise, but there's nobody here. That's strange, I heard a noise, but there's nobody here. No person is here. Second example, there's nobody who can help me in this situation. There's nobody who can help me in this situation. So there is no person who exists who can help me in this situation. So I am, okay, nobody can help me. And let's just take my marker and look at something. Okay, so we use it in affirmative sentences, and we have here, for example, I heard a noise, but there's nobody here. So there's is a contraction of there is. There's nobody again. There's nobody. There is nobody. So we're always using no in affirmative sentences. Cool? You'll need to remember that because it's part and a very important part of our understanding of Annie. We're going to do a little bit of a comparison. Okay, so Annie is used for the possibility that something exists. The possibility of a person, place, or thing. So we use it in negatives to say that there is no possibility, it doesn't exist, and we use it in interrogatives or questions to ask if there is a possibility. A question, I don't know if. Okay, I want to know about a possibility, so I use Annie in the question because Annie is about possibility. Okay, so anybody or anyone for people. Okay, body and one the same. Anybody the same as anyone. Nobody the same as no one. And somebody the same as someone. Let's check out the examples. That's strange, I heard a noise, but there isn't anybody here. Or there isn't, yeah, that's correct. That's strange, I heard a noise, but there isn't anybody here. So look at this. There isn't anybody. So we're using any in negatives. And let's compare that to our example for no. We have there is nobody. The same meaning, but a little bit different in terms of the grammar. There is nobody, because we use no in affirmative sentences. There isn't anybody, because we use any in negative sentences to say that there is no possibility. Okay, so any in a negative means that there is no possibility. Okay? There isn't anybody who can help me in this situation. The same thing happens. There isn't anybody. So we use any in a negative to say that there is no possibility. Okay? But with no, there is nobody. So there is. Again, there is. There's nobody who can help me in this situation. So no in an affirmative sentence is the same as any in a negative sentence. So those are some examples of correct usage. Let's take a look at the kind of common errors that students tend to make. So the errors we're going to look at are errors with no and any, which are the mistakes that students always make. Okay, so we learned that no is for affirmative sentences. So the most common error is to use it in a negative sentence. For example, that's strange, I heard a noise, but there isn't nobody there. So we have no, which is already a negative. So no means that no person exists, or no place exists, or no thing exists. So when we have no, it's already one negative. Okay. Easy. No, negative. Yes, positive, no, negative. So no is one negative. And then we have the other negative because we have the negative verbs. We have isn't. So now we have two negatives, and that's a problem, okay? You can't have two negatives. In English, two negatives is a positive, okay? So what we have here, I heard a noise, but there isn't nobody there. So nobody means that no person exists. But if we have double negative, it's no person doesn't exist. So if no person doesn't exist, then one person exists, or maybe more people. Okay? So you can't say there isn't nobody. You can never use no in an affirmative sentence. No is already one negative. You can't have two negatives. So you can't use a negative in a negative sentence. Then it doesn't make sense. Okay? There isn't nobody who can help me in this situation. There isn't nobody. Okay? So we have one negative because we have no. So no is one negative. Then we have our second negative because we have is not. So again we have two negatives. Okay? And two negatives equals a positive or affirmative. Okay? And let's just see how crazy it is if I say there isn't nobody, it's the same as there is somebody. Okay? There is somebody is the same as there isn't nobody, because two negatives make an affirmative. We use some for the affirmatives to say it exists. Okay, so never, 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 ever, ever, never, no in a negative sentence. Never. Okay. The same thing or a similar thing happens with any. Okay, so we learned that any is for a possibility, and we use it in a negative sentence to say that there is no possibility. So what happens if we use any in an affirmative sentence? It doesn't make sense. It's impossible to use any in an affirmative sentence. So for example, that's strange, I heard a noise, but there's anybody there. If I use anybody in an affirmative sentence, it means that there is a possibility. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. Or there is anybody who can help me in this situation. Remember, any is for possibility. So if you use any in an affirmative or positive, it means that there is a possibility. Or it would mean that there was a possibility, but it's completely wrong. It doesn't make sense. It's not possible to use any in an affirmative sentence. Absolutely not possible. Completely impossible.